Hello guys, welcome to Atmigbo tutorial and welcome to our topic Introduction to Differentiation. Remember hashtag you don't need to be a scholar to get an A. Now in differentiation we are going to be looking at several topics. We are going to be looking at meaning of functions and its examples, and we are going to be solving many questions. We are also going to look at the limits of a function. So after the definitions and the types of functions, we are going to look at the limit of a function, then we go on to differentiation and finally integration. Okay, now starting with our part one, what is a function? What is a function? Now, a function defines the character of a variable in an equation. Very simple. That's a simple definition of a function. Example, looking at something like this, like fx equals x minus 5. The variable here, we can say fx is equals to y. So we can say y equals to x minus 5 at this picture. Y equals to x minus 5. The function here, which is subtraction, defines the variable y. It tells us that a value of 5 is subtracted from this variable of x to give our dependent variable. I hope we remember that our x is our independent variable and our y is our dependent variable. So the x determines what value our y gets. Is that okay? If x is 6, the value of y will be 1. If x is 7, the value of our y will be 2. So now the function relating our independent variable and our dependent variable together is what? Is subtraction. Is that okay? So that's the simple definition of a function. Now we have many types of function. But we have two main kinds of function. The two main kinds of functions are the true and the false function. So a function can be true and a function can be false. Now, when is a function true? A function is said to be true if it can exist for any value of x. There are some functions that are wrong. That function that is wrong does not exist for that particular value. So a function is said to be true if it can exist for any value of x. Any value of x means all the whole values of a real number. That means it goes from negative infinity to the positive infinity. This is what I mean, from the negative infinity to the positive infinity. Is that okay? Good. Now, a false function, there is always an exception to the values for which it can exist. There will be a single value or a set of values to which that function cannot exist. So these are the two main kinds of function. Now let's look at some examples of this true and false function. For example, if we have fx equals to x squared plus 4. Now this function is valid for all values of x, meaning that all the values we put into this will make this function won't give a wrong function. Example, if we put 2, it will be 2 squared plus 4. And 2 squared plus 4 will give us 4 plus 4, which will give us 8. Are we understanding? Any value we input for x will always give us a corresponding value. And since it is valid for real numbers, and from numbers in the negative infinity to the positive infinity, including 0, we can say this function x squared plus 4 is a valid function, is a true function. Now let's look at an example of a false function. We have fx equals x squared minus 9 over x minus 3, which we can also write as y equals to x squared minus 9 over x minus 3. Now this function is valid for all the values of x except 3. Let's see why. If we say y equals to, instead of x now we put 3, so we have 3 squared minus 9 over 3 minus 3. This will give us 3 squared is 9 minus 9, and 3 minus 3 is 0. So 9 minus 9 is what? Is 0. 3 minus 3 is 0. So 0 divided by 0. 0 divided by 0 is not giving us a value contained in a set of real numbers. So 0 divided by 0 gives a value called undefined. So because this gives a value called undefined. You can say this function is a false function because though it exists for all other values of x, there is a value called 3 in which this function does not exist. Do we understand? Wonderful. Now we need to know, before we go on into the limit of a function, we need to understand this. When you have 0 divided by anything, be it x, y, or any value, your answer is equals to 0. When you have any value, which can be x, y, or anything, divided by 0, it gives us infinity, and infinity can be written like so. Now, when we have 0 divided by 0, like in our previous example, it gives a value of undefined. Is that okay? Yes, we need to know this as we move on to our next topic, which is the limit of a function. We also need to understand that when we have x plus infinity, it gives infinity. When you have a times infinity, it also gives infinity. This a and x can mean any value. Is that okay? Any basic mathematical operation with infinity gives infinity. 200 minus infinity gives infinity. 2 billion times infinity gives infinity. Is that okay? Any basic mathematical operation done with infinity as a value will result to the values in infinity. Do we understand? Thank you. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is the limit of a function.